Welcome to PASSIONEER Magazine The Podcast, where you'll hear inspirational stories, encouraging news, and in-depth interviews with authors, influencers, CEOs, and thought leaders. PASSIONEER Magazine The Podcast. Bold ideas, brave pursuits, boundless inspiration.
Hello. Welcome to the show, Dr. Colleen. I am so excited to talk to you and to have you on the show today. Thank you for joining me on PASSIONEER Magazine, the podcast.
Thank you so much, Dr. Angela. I love your energy already, so I'm excited.
I absolutely positively love what I do, and I am excited every day for what's going to happen throughout the day. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not pretending that obstacles and, stuff doesn't happen throughout the day, but I try to be as positive as I can. So should that happen, it won't be as bad as it could be. However, when it comes to Passioneer, I love interviewing the amazing people that I have on the show. So this part, it's just awesome. It's easy to have the energy when you know that you're going to have a great conversation. So thank you for that. Now, speaking of talking with awesome and amazing people, I realize that there may be some folks that are unfamiliar with you. With that being said, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am a life coach and a career coach. I have been doing this work since 2008. Started out as a little part-time side hustle when I was a higher education administrator in my past life, and became a full-time hustle in 2010. I also teach at Rutgers University, and have been doing that since 2010 as well. And besides that, I'm an author. I'm a mom of a 15-year-old, my best friend in the whole entire world, Josh. And yeah, I live in New Jersey, and I guess that's the little snapshot.
I love it. Well, there is something about we boy moms, right? That
Yeah,
our sons are just they are the sun and the moon, if you will, right? They are just
they are.
special persons in our lives. They are truly a blessing. Not that we don't love daughters or, nieces and stuff, because I mean, we're women and we love ourselves, but there is just a special relationship that
Yeah.
we have with our son. So I definitely understand that. Now, you have a similar journey to so many women that I have spoken with, where when we initially start off, we have a particular plan, we have a particular thing that we are trying to do, and we're successful at that. But as we grow and mature, we find that what we are not only want to do, but we're capable of doing kind of expands. So
Yeah.
let me ask you the flip side of that. When you were a child, did you
Mm.
think that you were going to be in this industry, that you would be teaching others, that you would be empowering other people? Was that even on your radar? Of course, maybe not those words, but was that on your radar as a child?
Not at all. Um, I mean, when I was little, you toss around all kinds of different things. Like, I think one of the first things I wanted to be was Indiana Jones. Uh, I wanted to be, I wanted to go dig in the dirt and find treasure and
Right.
have adventures. I think I wanted to be like a dentist for a hot minute. I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to be a magazine interviewer of rock stars.
Right?
Um, but
Right?
never in a million years would I have thought that like I'd have my own business or I don't know that I necessarily like even considered that like helping people full time was a job. And teaching certainly never because, up until my mid 20s, I had like horrendous like public speaking fears. So wouldn't have seen that coming ever.
Right? I love that because I think it gives someone hope that perhaps they too are like, I don't know if I really want to be in front of the camera. Maybe I'm more of a behind the scenes type of person, but you never know how life is going to place you in a particular opportunity to do the thing that you didn't think you wanted to do, but come to find out you're a perfect match for it.
Yeah.
So I definitely understand that. And I think for kids of the 80s, if you were born in the 70s, so you're a kid of the 80s, right?
Yeah.
We were allowed to dream these huge dreams because we saw awesomeness everywhere we went,
Yeah.
right? We saw people that were refusing to be in the box and they wanted to do stuff outside of the box and really break through. So I think we're a great generation for not only
Gen
being
X.
inspired, but to inspire others. I love that. Now, many of the people that I have spoken with have had a nudge or a prompting, if you will, at a particular moment in their lives where they realize now is the time for the pivot, the shift. Did you have such an experience? I mean, you have your doctorate in counseling psychology, you're a life coach, a career coach. When did the pivot happen for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's two big pivots. Well, there's always probably more than that, but the two biggest ones were, you know, I had decided probably in somewhere in high school that I wanted to be in the helping professions and maybe be a counselor, psychologist, something like that. And studied psychology in college, decided to get my doctorate in counseling. So the first, pivot or I call it like, mid-education crisis was I was like, I don't think I want to be a therapist anymore. And that was a terrifying moment because here I am like halfway through a doctoral program. I mean, I don't really want to bail on it at that point.
Right.
So it's like, so what am I going to do with it? So I actually almost switched programs into something different, ultimately decided to stay where I was and just use it differently. So the first
Mhm.
pivot is deciding that I don't think I really want to be a therapist, at least full time. So I did do therapy on the side, part time, while working full time. And I decided I wanted to work in higher education because I was doing some of that while I was in graduate school. I really liked working with college students. I like doing career counseling, advising, things like that.
Mhm.
So the next pivot happens. I started my full time career in higher education. I finished my doctoral degree in 2003. And then it was in 2000 and I guess 2010 where the next pivot happens. But I think I realized very early that year, like January, I don't want to do this anymore. And it was because my son was born in 2009 and I had the plan, like right, we all have the plan. And it was a good plan. He was going to be half time with my parents, half time with my in-laws. He was going to be in the best place he could be. I just didn't know that I was going to have such a problem with not being with him. So I
Yeah.
was so career driven that I had never considered that I was my priorities were going to shift like that. So
Mhm.
I go back to work, August of 2009 after he's born. Things don't feel the same. January 2010, I start thinking I need to figure out what else I could do that's more flexible. So
Yeah.
I think, hey, first thing I think of is faculty. I could be a faculty member. They have flexible schedules, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I apply for faculty positions, it doesn't work out. And then I have this moment, I go to my husband and I say, do you think this little, side hustle, resume writing, career coaching business could maybe be more than a side hustle? And we were all in. And I left in August of 2010 and never looked back.
Wow. Wow. I love that. I love that because I think for so many new moms, they are almost guilted into feeling that they should not feel bad because they had to go back to work.
Right.
When it is a natural experience to want to be with your child,
Yeah.
especially those first few months, because there's such an important time for bonding and just taking care of this new little human who has just, arrived in the world. So I love that you even though you were that purpose-driven person and you knew exactly what you wanted, to have those moments of vulnerability and to share that, because I'm pretty sure someone else is going through that too. And it is
Yeah.
okay to pivot or to pause or to just really and truly recreate. And I love that you did that, just to recreate the path in the way
Yeah.
that you want it to go. That is so awesome. Now, another hat that you wear is that you are a TEDx speaker. Now, I have listened to watch some amazing TEDx talks, and they are really, for me, sometimes they are the missing brick, the additional stepping stone, whatever you want to use there, that really helps people get from where they are to where they need to be. And I'm so glad that you are such a person who has shared your story. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah. I think one of the first TED Talks I had seen was Brene Brown, which so many of us have seen, and it was like a life changer. Um, and I was like, I want to do something like that. And then I started to do some research and found out that like real regular people could do things like that.
Right.
And I was like, "Ooh, TEDx, that's a thing. They do this at all these universities." And it turned out, that there were a few in New Jersey. And I said, okay, well, let me apply to some of these talks in New Jersey. I applied to several of them. I think maybe 4 or 5. I don't remember the exact number. Got rejected for most of them, and well, all of them except so I'm a Rutgers alumni 3 times. I work at Rutgers. Didn't mean that I got in the first couple of times, but
Right.
by the third try, I they accepted my talk. And the theme that year, it was in 2016. The theme that year was stories, and it was the wildest thing because as soon as I saw stories, the title of the TED Talk, my talk, came to me like that. Like it was there. And it was rescripting the stories we tell ourselves. Like
Yeah.
I immediately knew exactly what I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And I mean the process was absolutely terrifying. Memorizing, um, cutting it down, brutal.
Yes. Oh
It was
my
like
heavens.
because
Yes.
you could only do 15 to 18 minutes, and the original talk was 30 something minutes, and cut it until it finally was down.
Yeah.
Memorizing, remember pacing my kitchen, like saying it over and over again. Then being like, I can't do this. This is crazy. I can't actually do this. I imagine I could say, oh, oh, I'm so sorry. It turns out my cousin is getting married on that day, and I'll just not do it. But that I didn't. And I was the first speaker, which was probably the best thing that could have happened because I
Yes.
was able to enjoy the rest of the event.
Yes.
But I really got to talk about this idea of self-talk and, something I'm so incredibly passionate about. And afterwards, like a line of people formed at the bottom of the staircase as I was like coming down,
Yeah.
and people were just like saying things like it felt like you were talking directly to me, like you were telling my story, what I feel. And I felt like I was the only one that felt that way. And it was just
Wow.
like a really amazing experience to have that happen.
Hmm.
And I mean it led to a book, it led to so many other things.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I am the type of person who believes that there is no coincidence, there's no happenstance, and people have quotes about, that a no really isn't a no. It's more like a pause, or it's a temporary thing, and all of these wonderful ways of encouraging us to not take a no to heart.
Right.
And I believe that those no's really are in place for us to build up whatever it is that we need to build up, to fine tune, right? That it has to be like the little baby chick that has to peck its way out of the shell, right? If you just crack the shell, you're not helping the little chick. It needs to have that experience. So I love that you didn't become discouraged because they said no a couple of times. I mean, how many times have we heard the word no in
Yeah.
our lives? And if we stopped at that no, we wouldn't be the people that we are today. So I am so glad that your cousin wasn't getting married on that day
Yeah,
and you
that
were
that was a
actually
made up
able to
story in
help.
my head.
I love it. I love it. Now, in that helping that you do with your client base, have you found that there are any particular challenges or any particular obstacles that seem to come up more often? And how do you encourage them to get through it? Now, here's my little disclaimer. If you want the full answer, the full experience, we're going to give her information at the end. You can sign up for your own class, for your own coaching experience. But just in general, what are some of the main obstacles that you're finding, and how do you encourage folks to get through that?
The thing that people come to me for the most, hands down, is I say it like this. It's people who come to me saying, I don't know what I want to do, but I know it's not this.
Yeah.
So it's prospective career changers, prospective career pivoters. That is the biggest thing people come to me for. Um, the large majority of the work that I do is in the career space. The life coaching is secondary, often done with career stuff.
Mhm.
But when people come to me for life coaching, it's usually a work-life balance problem, feeling burnt out, feeling like they're not attending to themselves, their connections, like not taking care of themselves, not nurturing their relationships,
Mhm.
and need some sort of like order and structure in their lives in order to do that better.
Yeah.
And so those are the two biggest things that people come to me for. So I think that when it comes to career, I always want to understand first, you know, first let's understand, what do we know we absolutely don't want to do, right? So like,
Right.
what is it? Let's get that off the table first.
Mhm.
What's the absolutely, I hate this, I know I don't like this, I never want to do it again if I've done it, or I just know that's not me. Let's get that out there. And
Mhm.
then it's really looking at a person's life, from childhood even, and just getting a sense of, what have you done recreationally? What classes have you enjoyed? What part-time jobs or volunteer work have you enjoyed? What causes are you passionate about? What projects at jobs have been fun for you? What about all these things has been fun? Is it about people? Is it about information? Is it about a particular task that you're responsible for? Is it about the end result? Is it about the impact you're having? Who do you want to have an impact on? What's important to you? What kind of legacy are you interested in leaving? Does that matter to you? Or is it really more about intellectual growth, or really trying to understand what a person wants out of career, because it's not the same for everybody. Everybody has a very different idea about, and I think that's something I learned in doing this work. I think on some level, when I first started, I thought that everybody just, was sort of like calling focused, right?
Mhm.
Because I am. And
Mhm.
and I learned that that's not the case. For some, it's like, no, I just really want to do something that's enjoyable. I can learn, I can grow, I can have promotions. There's opportunities for monetary growth. And yeah, I want to feel good about it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like, changing the world, or I just want to know that like I have an impact and it's positive and
Yeah.
it's a good for the organization, the people. And for others, it's more like I just want to do something that's pretty cool, not awful, work with some cool people that funds the things I really care about. So I try to understand what a person wants out of work.
Yeah.
And then we start really, doing some interest assessing, matching that up with opportunities. I try to think about people I've worked with before, pitch ideas to folks
Mhm.
until we kind of hone in, and they can do some informational interviewing, talk to some people, and weed in and weed out, and see, what do we need to do in order to get there? Do we need to do some volunteer work somewhere to get some experience, or do we need to take a course online, or what does it require to make this kind of a shift?
Mhm.
And then with the folks who, come for the balance, I want to know how satisfied they are in different areas of their life, what's getting in the way of that,
Yeah.
what's working well, what's not working well, what feels like it's missing, and understand, what are the non-negotiables of their schedules? What are the negotiables? And, where is their energy? Is it early in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening? Where can we fit in joy and purpose and connection and, time for the other things?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, I love that you focus in on the harmony and the balance as well. I know that that's something that, for my program, Pivot for Purpose, is that that's what we're looking at as well. So many times, like you said, it's the how is your day organized? How is your life organized? And just in changing sometimes the smallest bits of what you're doing, just making those little tweaks can make such a huge difference. Some people need to literally step away and step on a new path. Agreed. Some people just need to make those little changes. But I like how you said some folks just, I want to do something different. I don't have to change the world. I just want to change what I'm doing and create more balance and more happiness in my life. And
Yeah.
boy, can that make a difference. There are so many people that are working in a space where they are unhappy, they are so miserable. The pay might be amazing for someone, right? But they are so miserable, and they would even consider taking a pay cut if
Right.
it means I could go to work and be happy. So that is so important. I'm glad that you touched on that. I think that's going to be an aha moment for someone who hears that in your program. Now you
Yes.
are a founder, and with so many women, and or I should say, especially women, are making gains when it comes to our role as entrepreneurs. Many women have said it's the year of the woman, and it seems like it's been the year of the woman for quite so many years. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just I think women are finding their voice, their place. Many of us are now empty nesters. So what we used to do, we no longer have to do that because our children are adults, right? And we're able to expand and grow. What does it mean to you to be a founder, to be an entrepreneur, and to step out in that role?
I think the thing that it's one of the best things I ever did for sure. And, you get asked that question a lot, because I think there's people who are thinking about it themselves and want to know, like, is this a mistake? Is this bad? Should I do it? Should I think about it? And definitely one of the best things I ever did. But I think the reason for that is like multifold, right? It's getting to do something that you love every day. It's really hard to beat that. Right. I mean, because so many people, unfortunately, and doing career work, right? I mean, you're talking to people who aren't happy in their careers.
Yeah.
So I feel immensely grateful that I do love this work so much, that I get to, interact with great people every single day. And it's just like it's like a blessing. It's a true blessing. And I think that that combined with getting to decide how my schedule looks. Like I'm a
Mhm.
person who is an early riser. I like the mornings and I really don't want to be working in the evenings. And it surprises people. They say I work 7 days a week. And that's like, oh my God, no, that's terrible. But it isn't to me because I shut down at 2, like during the weekdays and earlier on the weekends.
Ah,
Because
okay.
my life is about myself and my kid after that time of day and my
Yeah.
family. Like that's what it's about for me. And so I'm good with working on a Saturday and Sunday morning early in the day and finishing up by 11 o'clock. And then I've got time for my family, right? So, and the things that I want to do, my friends, right? So, having that control of my schedule is just amazing. It enabled me to have the time I wanted with my son, which was, obviously one of the biggest catalysts for doing this to begin with. And I think like there's a pride that comes, as you know, right? I mean, there's a pride that comes with watching your business grow and thrive, and it sort of blows your mind, and it never stops blowing your mind. Like it never
Right.
goes away. Like this has been what 2008, however many years that is. Like it's not like that is still like it's still new to me, like in the sense that I'm just like I can't believe that this thing keeps getting better and better and growing more and more and changing in its ways. But I think, it's also like I've found the groove at this point. Like I know how I do things, I know what I will and won't do. Boundaries are very important. I have many
Yeah.
more of them than I did in the beginning. I think when you're a new entrepreneur, it's very easy to be boundaryless. You say yes to everything, you're
Yeah.
working at hours you don't want to be working, right? You're doing things you don't want to be doing.
Mhm.
Um, and now it's just like, if I don't want to do it, I don't do it. um, and
Right.
so I think boundaries, getting to have them and getting to make those decisions about what I take on and what I don't is like just crucial.
Oh, I love that answer. And it's so funny because as you were talking about time, and I'm thinking, I said, "Ooh, she says she's a morning person. I'm not a morning person." Okay, like she's like my mom. My mother is, up at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning. The birds are chirping, they're talking to my mother as she has her coffee, right? And it is a beautiful experience for her. I'm kind of that night owl type of person,
Yeah,
which is great. I'm more of the sunset, right? If we have beautiful sunrises and beautiful sunsets, and I'm the person who is enjoying the sunset. But
yeah,
I find that for my client base, they are so happy that I'm still open at 7
right,
because they had to work until 5, right?
right.
So it's really interesting how that works. But that wasn't the case when my son was a child, because then it
Mm,
was, sorry, we have football games or we have orchestra today. Like there were
right.
things that I was still in mom mode. And now that I don't have to be in mom mode, I can kind of switch that up. So you're right. It is very much about the boundary of this is what I can and cannot do. I don't work weekends.
Right.
So the longer day kind of get that 7 o'clock slot because I'm not available on Saturday.
Right.
So I love that you are reminding people that one of the blessings is that you can cater your time, but be aware of what your client base needs as well. I love that answer. Now, when it comes to, and I want to wrap back around to something that you said, and that
Yeah.
is the leadership class that you
Yeah.
teach at Rutgers. I think that is so awesome, and especially as someone who shares about the things that women do.
Yeah.
Please tell me about that experience, and especially the comments that you get from some of your female students. Are they excited that a woman is teaching the class? Do they see the not only the professor student relationship, but do they also feel that there's a bit of mentor mentee relationship in that as well?
Yeah, this class is, one of the again, talk about greatest things that ever happened to me. When I decided to, leave my full-time salaried work and do this business, I didn't want to lose my connection to higher education and to college students because it really is one of my first loves. So, I knew about this course. I had known people that had taught it. It's called Issues in Women's Leadership. It's through my alma mater, so it's the Women's College of Rutgers University. So it's a course that didn't exist when I was there.
Wow.
But the craziest part of it was that when I was a graduate student, they started to create the first iterations of the course, and I got to be a research assistant just completely by chance, serendipity, right?
Wow.
On the for the focus groups for the first cohorts of the course as it existed then. And so it's like it just was meant to be,
Yeah.
so so I've been teaching it for 14 years. I have two sections of the course this semester, next semester. Sometimes I do one, sometimes I do two, but it fall and spring, not summer. Um, 20 students per course. So I got 40 amazing, students in my class right now who I love them. I can't even begin to, I mean, like, I tell them I love them. I love them. I will cry when the semester is over. They may see me cry. Uh, like
Yeah.
I adore them. They're amazing. It's a how do I say? Um, it's a discussion based course. So it's not lectury, it's not PowerPointy.
Okay.
It's very like there's things we watch, there's discussion questions, there's things we read, and we talk about those things. And they're focused on, gender equity and racial equity and, religious equity and sexual equity and just like social justice and just like having a voice and like, things that you're passionate about, going out there into the world and taking, action on the things that matter to you,
Yeah.
whether that's in your career or outside of work or in in your local community, people who want to do that on a larger scale, talking about, about the fact that activism doesn't need to be, in a huge group or at a rally or at a,
Right.
on a stage. It could
Mhm.
be quiet, it could be at home, it could be writing, that it's really like, how do you find your voice for the things that matter to you and the spaces
Mhm.
that matter to you? How do you also like have those difficult conversations when you see things that don't feel just to you, and
Yeah.
with the people you love or with strangers, and like just really really like focusing in on being a woman who brings other women up, or really quite frankly being a human who brings
Yeah.
other humans up
Yeah.
in this world, and to just be good to each other and good to ourselves, and to, even when we're not maybe feeling so confident, to be able to
Mhm.
put ourselves out there, our voices and our visibility.
Oh, I love what you just said there, and I hope someone else picks up that this nugget as well. And you said that, it doesn't have to always be loud. It doesn't always have to be a multitude of people. And as you were saying that, what popped in my head was change starts with one person speaking up. And it could be your conversation, it could be your thought, it could be your article, your blog post, your social media post, just you saying something. And which made me think about like the Me Too movement. Not that that's
Yeah,
what you're talking about, but just a simple post of, hey, this thing happened to me. And if it happened to you too, let me know.
yeah,
Like we can just comfort each other. We can be there and make space for each other. And look at how it has changed the world. It has been
yeah,
included in many of my PowerPoint presentations, right?
yeah,
Because it is just the example of just one person's voice like really making a difference in the world. I so love that you are making space for those students to be able to take this course and be able to find their own voice within it, but also understand that it is not just in this moment, but how are you changing the tomorrows, right?
right,
How are you making a space one human to another human? And if it happens to be woman to woman, that's cool too, but just
right.
human to human. I love that. Now, I have one more question for you, and I could
Sure.
just talk to you forever because I
I'm
love
having
what you
fun.
are doing. And that is that you are an author and you have written a really, really great book. And let me tell you, if I saw this book on the shelf, I would stop and thumb through it because let's be honest, we do judge a book by its cover. If it has a great title, we want to stop and see, what is going on here. And what I like is that to me, you could read the title two different ways, right? Like rescript, like
Hmm.
rescript, stop, full stop,
Right,
rescript,
right.
right? The
Yeah,
story you're telling yourself. But then you can also do like rescript the story. Like, what are you telling yourself, right? Like,
yeah.
not only is it a statement, but it is that, oh, let me roll this around a little bit. And I think because I feel the in between the lines as well,
Yeah.
that it's like, oh yeah, we've gotta get that book, put it in the cart. So tell me about what was the experience like in writing the book.
Yeah. So, like many people who write, you sort of always know that you want to do this, but the getting there is really difficult. And I think there's just all the perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and all the stuff and procrastination that
Mhm.
comes along with it. And so for probably sometime in high school, I think I realized that I probably wanted to write a book one day. Had no idea about what. Um, and then it became more clear when I was in graduate school. Obviously going to be some kind of self-help book. The original titles were different at that time. I tried writing it after my dissertation. No one should try to do that. You wrote one, What was that all about? I got 17 pages in and I was like, yeah, I don't want to write anymore. And I
Oh
stopped
my
for a
goodness.
decade, so you don't try to write a book after a dissertation. You just don't.
Right.
Um, so, finally after the TED talk, I knew this. I was like, it's going to be Rescript the story you're telling yourself. It's going to be an offshoot of what I talked about in the TED talk. And it was weird. It was like then suddenly it all just came to be, and I was able, starting in 2018, the process I really just set aside. It started with like Friday mornings, and I would just block that time off. I wouldn't see clients, I wouldn't take on other work.
Mhm.
And then it became Fridays, and then I started taking more days, and I really cut down my client time for a while, for several months, in order to
Yeah.
really get it done. And and it came together, and I think it was like once I put a structure to it and I really had an idea about like what I wanted to do when, I just sort of let it come out, right? Because that's what it
Yeah.
does. It just sort of falls out
Right.
once it actually is ready. um and yeah, it just was like, and it's a mixture of personal like anecdotes and stories. It's a mixture of like anonymized client stories. It's and research, and just the things that I've done with clients over the years. And it's kind of all of that together. And it's and Rescript is an acronym, and and it's funny because everybody just calls the book Rescript, including me. So, and
Yeah.
the acronym is release rumination, engage growth goals, um, seek strengths, rest, challenge catastrophizing, restrict regret, invite imperfection, pursue passion and purpose, and think thankfully.
I love it. I love it. And it is so needed, I think, in a time as now. And not that there's any particular thing that's going on in the world, but just a time of now, and that things are changing. Just the way that we do things are changing thanks to a lot of the technology that we have with
Yeah.
AI and all of that. Like we are just in the middle of change. And I think that one of the blessings of being in this particular generation is that I tell folks we are analog and digital, right? Like if the lights go out, we still know how to survive, right? We can still find each other, we can still make the world go round. You'll still have dinner tonight, don't worry, right? Like we are still able to do these things. But yet we have grown and matured and become wiser in our own way, because we have um, introduced the new way of doing things to ourselves in a way that is, I think, exclusive to us, because we are bilingual in that way. Our children, this is the only thing that they know, right?
Yeah.
So for them it might be a little disheartening when the lights go out, but we're like, fine, light a candle, we're gonna keep moving. So I love that you are helping so many people make that transition into, it's okay if you want to become more digital or you want to become more modern, if you want to pivot, if you want to make that change, you can flip the script,
Yeah.
rewrite the script. How many times do they do that, where they're really using a script and go, I don't like that. Get rid of that line. We're going to do it like this because it feels more authentic, or it's what's needed for that time. And I love that you are encouraging humans to re-script and just realign themselves. I love it. Dr. Colleen, you are awesome. And I love that you
You're
are
welcome.
sharing that with the world. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing not only your program and your progress with our viewers and with our listeners, but for really encouraging them to be their best selves. Thank you so much for that. Now, before I let you go, though, if someone wants to reach out to you, if they want to follow you on socials, how do they do that?
Website is probably the easiest place to go because all the socials are on there too. Contact info's on there. So it's www.colleengeorges.com, and that's COLLEENGEORGES.com.
Love love it. Thank you again, Dr. Colleen, for being a guest here on Passioneer Magazine, the podcast.
Thank you so much, Dr. Angela.